I think in the Industrial Revolution, everything we tried to do as humans in work was about more and more productivity. And I think that hit a wall with COVID. Not that we're not going to be productive, but people asked for a reset to remember that these are humans. It is human capital. It's human talent. And that's the piece we're trying to come back to terms with.
There are opportunities for our work and careers everywhere, if you know where to look. That's easier said than done, especially in our fast-paced and constantly changing world. Marianne Fairmouth is talking to experts, employers, and job seekers to bring you insight and understanding about what's possible. This is Career Can Do, where we're navigating the new work world.
Welcome to the Career Can Do podcast, a podcast that is global and dedicated to navigating the new work world and beyond. Today, I'm just delighted to have a guest on our show that's doing some amazing things. Dr. Sharon Hull was the founding director of an executive coaching program for the faculty at Duke University School of Medicine. She's created Bespoke Life Network, an online community for those who strive to develop a meaning and intentional approach to personal and professional life. And also, she's got an exciting new book coming out. So I'm thrilled to have Sharon on the show today. Without further ado, let me introduce Sharon. Sharon, say hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm delighted, Marianne, to be part of your work and to have a chance to talk with you today. So thank you.
Well, the pleasure's all mine. And we had a nice conversation in the Blue Room and talked about so many wonderful things you're doing. But you've got this really neat book coming out that, Sharon, I think is so necessary for these times. You know, I've been executive recruiter for over 30 years, and we've got a lot of changes right now we're all dealing with in the workplace, both employers and employees. So tell us, what made you want to write this book, and tell us a little bit about it.
So the first question that you asked is what made me want to write the book. And I will say that I've been an executive coach for over a dozen years, working with professionals in lots of different arenas. And I've watched them make career transitions and helped them in most cases. But I kept looking for the guide to career transitions, and I couldn't find that book on anybody's bookshelf that somebody else had written. And I finally decided, after I'd been coaching around this topic for about a decade, that I ought to write that book. And the thing that drove it was client need. My clients needed to have something they could pull off their shelves to help them. And my own career path has been kind of winding in a very good way that I'm happy about. And the book is not my story, but if you read between the lines, you'll learn how I made decisions in my career as I went along. So there were a lot of people in my practice whose career paths are not linear. And this is the book for them. The people who aren't just climbing a ladder, but who are looking around to make decisions that are grounded in what matters to them. And so the first part of the book is about discernment, what matters most to you right now at this season of your life. The second part is a handbook for actually doing a job search if you're a professional. And the third part is your career in context, the lifelong context, from being a trainee in a profession all the way through what I call the capstone, not retirement. For some people it is, but the capstone could be a new career, an encore. It could be retirement. But today's world of work has shifted so that most of us retire after a single career.
Well, I think, you've given our listeners so much good information. And Sharon, I think post-COVID, so many people are saying, what do I really want to do with my life? Because I think during COVID, a lot of us had time to reflect, reevaluate, reconsider. And so I think the timing of this book is outstanding, because I think that not only are candidates and employees are looking for the answer to that question, but I also think hiring authorities, employers, company heads are scratching their head right now and saying, what's going on here? How can I keep these people happy? How can I stop this great resignation? How can I hire and attract the right talent? So I think your timing is unbelievably extremely good. And I can't wait to read this book. Now, we talked about the three parts, right? You said here, when we talked earlier in the Blue Room about courage, the courage to make intentional change. What do you mean exactly by that? I understand it. I think you have to have courage to do that. Tell me your definition of that.
Well, so my take on it is that, particularly for those of us in my generation, maybe the younger folks, this is natural to them. And I don't know that. I don't want to say there's a big generational difference, but I think it takes courage for anybody to think outside the mainstream of what a professional career ought to be. I used to be a student affairs dean at my alma mater medical school, and I would run the 3-week orientation. And at the end of 3 weeks in medical school, I would ask students, if you figured out in the last 3 weeks that this isn't the career for you, could you leave? And in 8 years of doing that job, no one ever said yes. 3 weeks in, they felt like they couldn't make a change. And that was my first clue that once you choose a path, it's very hard to step off. And in some ways, I wrote this book for people who want not to step off and quit, but for whom things have come to a close at a particular season of their life. And it takes courage to say that.
It really does take courage. I agree with you. It takes a lot of courage. And I think that some of us are conditioned to want to please and get the approval, especially from our family, friends. And, there's a risk involved. It's a little bit fearful. So I think it is somewhat of an uncommon topic in career planning, but, this courage aspect is something that we all need to seriously consider. And, what I always say is if you make a decision, even if you fail, if you take the courage, have the courage to make a decision and you fail, I'm not a proponent of failure, not by any means, but that could happen. But it's not the end of the world because you're going to learn. You're going to learn lessons.
We learn from every one of those decisions.
We do. We do.
I'm a big fan of what Thomas Edison said. He said, I didn't fail 1,500 times to make a light bulb. I learned 1,500 ways not to do it. And that to me is the essence of courage, right? And I think COVID kind of enforced a courage on all of us because everything around us was changing. We had to find our way through. And on some level, it made courage easier because everybody was having to reassess. The original title of this book, which I started writing about in the middle of the pandemic, was going to include the words, the Great Resignation, but I decided it was going to be timely beyond that. So I didn't put it in the title, but that was a real driver for my writing it.
Well, I totally understand what you're saying here. We talked too in the Blue Room about you creating this Bespoke Life Network that's online. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? That's intriguing to me. What is that all about?
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you for the chance to speak about it. First of all, the word bespoke is often used in custom-tailored men's clothing, right? Made to fit you is what the word bespoke means. And I don't want to insult your listeners. Many of them probably already know that. But this idea of creating a custom-fit career that suits you to a T and having it be part of a custom-designed life, an intentional life, is really what this community is about. And so it's really a group of people who want to have a conversation about being intentional, about work and life. One of my mentors said to me, work, personal and professional, it's all one life. What you do with it's up to you. I quote her in the book, and that's actually become a saying that I live by, It really is all one life. And so a bespoke life takes that into account and takes into account the seasons of people's lives. You'll have different needs when you have young children or you're caregiving, when you're starting your career and trying to get situated versus when you've been in it a long time and maybe want to change. So a bespoke life and a bespoke career is made to suit you at this moment. The community brings people together who want to talk about that. The community's free. We will have some paid offerings in there eventually, but right now the entire community is free. And there's a book club relevant to the book where we're dedicating free space to come and talk about the book. And every tool, there are a lot of worksheets and tools in this book. Every one of them is downloadable in the book club within the community. So if you're interested in the book and look at it, please take a minute. There's a QR code in the book for you to get right to the book club and the community, and it doesn't cost you a thing. Come join us and have the conversation.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And, Sharon, I think that community sometimes, having people that we can listen to, learn from, talk to, that's support. And I think that if we're thinking about making a change or going through a transition, that type of an experience, that type of an online community is just invaluable. It's so helpful. So I just think that's a wonderful thing you've created. And I'm interested myself in, maybe at some point, joining and listening. And I hear so many people saying, Marianne, I've done this job for 20 years. I'm making really good money, but I don't want to do it anymore.
Yes.
I don't know how to make the change. I don't know. I'm afraid. I'm thinking I should stay where I am. As I told you earlier, I was in Hilton Head and I gave a speech and I talked to them, mainly employers, about how right now also, because we do have an unprecedented talent shortage. We can't expect every single box on the job description to be checked. So what do? Well, we look at transferable skills. But at the end of the day, I think you and I are speaking the same language, because when a person is really in alignment with who they are and what they want to do, they stay in a job longer. They stay a long term. My claim to fame, what I'm most proud of, is longevity. My 30 years, I place people, and I've been really proud that they stay a long time in the job. Now, I think that is because I do take the time to understand who are you, what's important to you, and look at the right culture fit. Because we can have every single skill on a job description, but if we go in and it's not the right fit in other areas, it's not going to work. So we have to look at many dimensions right now, because post-COVID, things have changed.
One of the things about your work that really intrigues me is your work with employers. And it's my hope that employers will find the book useful, because they're looking for a way to keep talent and to understand what's happened in the change of the world of work. And this book was written for them. The community is for them. Come in and learn what people are thinking about career longevity. And I want to say thank you for the work that you do in that space, because I think our employers need help as well. It takes courage for them to invest in a person at that level.
And Sharon, my feeling is people, especially in a sales position, I do a lot of technical recruiting as well, in, the metallurgists and the engineering and all that. But if we're talking about a sales position to be filled, people like to buy from people they trust, people they relate to. I have a young man I placed 15 years ago. He's a very special young man to me. And he loves to hunt. He loves to fish. And he is in a position that has those kinds of customers. And he's always telling me all these big deals he's doing. But I think he's very, very bright also, and he's really, really hardworking. But when you have that commonality, when you place somebody in a position where there's a alignment of their interest with the prospective customer interest, in most cases, you're going to make more sales. Do you agree?
I agree with that completely. And the person is going to be happier over time, and the employer is going to get a more productive employee.
When I gave this speech in Hilton Head, I talked about having a creative mindset. And it was so funny, Sharon. I was at the airport in Charlotte, and there was a magazine. I think it was either Harvard Review it was Success Magazine. The cover on that magazine was Tony Robbins, and he was talking about creative mindset. All right. So I think where we are right now, whether we're an employer, employee, we have to be open to a more creative mindset, because I think if we are, we're going to get better results. We're going to have less turnover, and we're going to have a better group of people that want to work for us.
I agree with that completely. I think it's the human factor that for years, maybe this will be pontificating. I'll try to be very short. I think in the Industrial Revolution, everything we tried to do as humans in work was about more and more productivity. And I think that hit a wall with COVID. Not that we're not going to be productive, but people asked for a reset to remember that these are humans. It is human capital. It's human talent. And that's the piece we're trying to come back to terms with.
I love that. All right. I think that leads me to something else that you probably are going to smile when I say this. Everybody's talking about all these generational differences, all right?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all
Yes.
human. We all want to be respected. We all want to be felt that you have something worthwhile to say or to contribute, all right? We go about doing it a little differently, depending upon what generational sector we belong to. But at the end of the day, just like you said, we're all human beings.
I think that's so true. And I have to say, I want to come back to the generational piece. I think so many people of my generation, on the young side of the boomers. So I'm the one that the young folks say, okay, boomer. But when I listen to them, so many in my generation think that they're lazy or that they can't commit. And I don't think that's true at all. I was part of medicine 30 years ago when the guys were complaining about the feminization of medicine. All these women coming in and wanting work-life balance and all this stuff, and they were complaining. And I remember saying to them, I didn't argue with them, but I said, look, do you want to go to your son's soccer game? And they said, well, yeah, but we don't get to do that in this profession. I said, that is what the women are going to bring. They're brave enough to say, we want to do this. So you can go too. And I think that's what the young people are doing. They have been brave enough, particularly through COVID, to say, hey, we're charting a course that will fit our lives. And I think that's going to benefit all of us. So if there are younger generations than me out there listening, I hope they know that I see them as role models for careers. Maybe not many boomers say that, but I will say that to them.
Well, I agree with you. And I think at the end of the day, if you go into your place of employment and you are producing results, I think your superiors, your bosses are going to be a lot more flexible too. If you have results at the top of your agenda and you show your perspective or your employer how you're going to benefit their bottom line, then they're going to be more open to being flexible. Do you agree with that too?
I do agree with that. And I think it's a learning curve for all of us, employers and employees, both sides of this equation.
Well, I think you're right. As any kind of learning curve, we're going to make a few little hiccups, little mistakes, but I think we're going to be resilient, rebound, and onward we go, we move forward. Well, we're getting near the end here, and I think this has been a podcast that's just so full of wonderful information for our listeners. And Sharon, I'm so thrilled that you decided to come on the show. But if we had to leave our listeners with two salient points, as far as what they can do, whether they're an employee or an employer, to become really successful in life, not just in a job, in life overall, what would you say those salient points would be?
So I think for me, the first principle is that creating a life grounded in meaning and purpose is possible. And it's dynamic. It's a lifetime commitment to being intentional about meaning and purpose. On the flip side, if the employers and employees are both attending to how humans make meaning and purpose out of their lives, those are the companies and those are the employees that are going to be poised to be successful in what I think of as the new world of work.
I certainly think that's very, very profound. And I think that's good advice for our listeners. And I'm so impressed with you, and you're so bright, you're so accomplished, but you have this wonderful spirit and this caring way about you that I think is just wonderful. Did you get into medicine because of the healing aspect of it? I'm just curious.
I actually did come to medicine because I wanted to be a healer. There was a brief moment where I thought I was going to be a brain surgeon, and it became very apparent that that was not where my talents lay. But I was a family physician for over 30 years, and I consider coaching to be my second healing profession. Different kind of healing, different set of tasks, but I still work with humans who are trying to be better, healthier, wiser, happier. And that's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, if our listeners want to get a hold of you, I'm thinking they want to order your book. Now, your book's going to be coming out soon. Is that right?
It will come out. Launch day is Tuesday, April 30th. It's already on pre-order at Amazon, and I'm happy to share the link with you. My website is mettasolutions.com, METTA solutions.com. That's the name of my company, and there's a whole section on the book on the website.
Well, that's wonderful. And all this information will be on my website as well, fairmouth.com. Sharon, I feel so privileged to know you and to have a person of your caliber on Career Can Do. And I know we will be able to stay in touch because I'm going to make it happen. So Thank you
Me
so
too.
much.
I'm committed and I'm going to go take a look deeper in your book. And I have to tell you the story about the butterflies and the lessons from the butterflies with your Mimi. Mimi was the dandelions, but the butterflies just touched my heart. So thank you for this.
Thank you so much. My Mimi was my grandmother, and she was
Yes.
very, very special to me. So thank you so much, and see you all next time. Bye-bye. We thank you for tuning in to our Career Can Do podcast. We make no guarantees on results for your particular quest, but we hope you enjoy the information presented. The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely that of the guest or speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Marianne Fairmouth and Fairmouth and Company. Thank you.